some of the most beautiful gardens start with what others throw away. In this video, we'll explore 9 upcycled DIY ideas made for small spaces and tight budgets, perfect for tiny yards and thrift lovers. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration. Every project here is real, thoughtful, and made to inspire. Check the timestamps, jump where you like. And if you need help, I'll be in the comments. Don't just watch, create something with what you already have. I'm more than just a voice behind a screen. This is a real effort from a small home, with a big dream. Every like, every comment, every subscribe keeps that dream alive. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for seeing what's behind the work. Sometimes, all it takes to awaken a forgotten corner of your garden is the shimmer of light through plastic that once had no future. But here, in this tiny slice of paradise, discarded bottles rise again, not as waste, but as wonder. Look closer. Along the edge of a flower bed, soft pastel colors bloom, pinks, blues, yellows. They're not petals, but they whisper like petals. These are plastic bottles, cut with care, their shapes mimicking tulips or morning blooms just beginning to open. Anchored gently into the soil, they cradle the blossoms of marigold and lavender like handmade guardians, giving every bend of the garden path a soft, playful curve. Some of them glow. At dusk, tiny solar LEDs, tucked inside the base, flicker to life. It's not a bright light, not overwhelming. Just a gentle breath of luminescence, like fireflies dancing low to the ground. The effect is magical. Like your garden is gently exhaling light. If you're wondering how to make this at home, start simple. Collect bottles, clear or tinted. Wash them, cut the top third cleanly, and shape the edges into soft curves or pointed petals using sturdy scissors. Sand them gently if you want smooth finishes. Paint them with leftover pastel spray paint or leave them transparent for that glassy fairy effect. If you have solar tea lights or LEDs, pop them inside the inverted base before placing them into the soil. Here's a tip from seasoned garden dreamers. Place your bottle blooms where the sun hits strongest during the day. Solar lights will last longer that way. And don't worry about perfection. The charm lies in the unevenness. Let them lean a little, vary in height, let the color be uneven. It feels more like a story that way. This isn't just decoration. It's a reimagining. It's what happens when hands meet hope and plastic meets poetry. So whether your garden is a corner balcony or a patch of soil beside the back gate, there's always room for magic. Not the kind you buy, but the kind you build, with leftover things, and a quiet intention to bring beauty back. Let your borders bloom. Where forgotten windows whisper to the garden. In the quiet company of herbs and marigolds, old shutters stand tall like sentinels of memory. Once they opened to kitchens and parlors, now they shelter tiny corners of joy. Look closer, each shutter carries its own shade of time. Faded sage, chalky white, soft robin's egg blue. This isn't just a fence, it's a patchwork poem. A rustic embrace for your garden, made not from newness, but from nostalgia. And here's the beautiful part, you can do this yourself. visit a salvage yard, or ask around your neighborhood. Old shutters are often left forgotten in garages or sheds. With just a few screws, some garden hooks, and a loving coat of paint, they become your garden's own vintage storybook. Add hanging pots with trailing lobelia or thyme, and you'll see how quickly the fence becomes a living wall of textures and scents. But not every fence must stand in perfect line. Along a narrow patio, let the shutters lean, imperfectly and wonderfully. Invite morning glories to curl up their arms around the slats. Their blossoms will open slowly, as if stretching from sleep, casting dappled shadows across the paving stones below. A weathered bench, a crate of herbs, these details don't just decorate, they breathe warmth into a space too often left bare. And then there are the artful corners. Imagine shutters not just as barriers, but as canvas. Hang old mason jars and vintage tools, objects once held in hands now turned to sculpture. Behind them, a seat built from reclaimed pallets, soft cushions, one floral, one gingham, welcoming anyone who wanders through. Succulents nestle in pots nearby, as if they've lived there for generations. This category, this idea, is a love letter to forgotten things. It reminds us that the beauty of a garden isn't in what's new or perfect, but in what's been repurposed, loved again, and made to feel at home. Cherry Blossom. In one quiet corner of a sunlit backyard, the line between utility and enchantment disappears. Here, the earth has not been merely planted, but painted, shaped, and whispered into a soft fairy tale. Beneath a lavender sky and beside blooming daisies, whimsical totems rise from the soil. They are not ancient relics, but repurposed sculptures of concrete, hand-cast mushrooms with faded pink caps, spiral towers wrapped in floral vines, and tiny birds that seem ready to flutter off their pastel pedestals. They don't speak, but they tell stories, of someone's hands, someone's vision, someone's quiet Saturday afternoon spent with brushes, molds, and a heart tuned to magic. These concrete creations are more than decoration. They're anchors of cottagecore nostalgia, sweet tokens of innocence and handmade calm. Unlike factory ornaments, each totem carries the imperfect soul of the maker. You can feel it in the way the paint settles into creases, the way some edges are slightly tilted, not by mistake, but by freedom. For those wishing to recreate this peaceful setting, begin not with money, but with eyes wide open. Look to leftover concrete, broken statues, garden stepping stones, even chipped mugs to mold anew. Paint with earth tones, salmon pinks, faded greens, soft whites, and let nature wear them gently. Don't strive for symmetry. Let your garden feel like it grew this way on its own. Place the totems along your flower beds, as if marking a sacred border. Let lavender, thyme, or marigolds weave between them. These miniature monuments don't have to impress, they have to belong. That's the charm. That's the spell. In the end, what grows here is more than plants. It's peace. It's presence. And it's the kind of beauty that doesn't chase perfection, but finds poetry in every imperfection. In a quiet corner where thyme and daisies bloom freely, something small and magical takes root. A narrow path winds gently through the garden, not marked by grand arches or stone sculptures, but by the humblest tools of daily life: vintage spoons, forks, and knives, now reborn as fairy tale fencing. Their handles are curved and their stems anchored gently into the earth, forming a silvery picket along the soft pebbled path. Some are left tarnished, gleaming dully with stories of dinners past. Others are painted with soft pastels, floral patterns dancing under the sunlight. Between them, tiny fairy statues perch in silence, guardians of whimsy, watching every footstep with invisible delight. There's something deeply human about using old utensils to line a path. These were once held in hands, passed between loved ones, and used to nourish. Now, they shape a new kind of nourishment, a feast for the imagination. And best of all, it requires little: a handful of forgotten silverware from a thrift store or your own drawer, some soft garden soil, and a heart willing to play. Try spacing the cutlery evenly, pushing each gently into damp ground. You can bend them with simple tools, or twist the necks by hand if the metal is soft. For a more enchanted look, paint a few in white and decorate with floral decals or pastel acrylics. Add fairy figurines between intervals, and let creeping thyme or wildflowers grow softly around them. With time, the border will feel less like a project and more like a secret, something only you and the fairies know. This is the kind of DIY that doesn't ask for perfection. Only patience, playfulness, and the courage to believe that beauty can be born from spoons. Sometimes, the greatest magic in a garden lies not in what it reveals, but in what it gently hides. A small nook lined with bamboo becomes more than shelter. It becomes a sanctuary. In one image, a hexagonal gazebo stands proud and peaceful in a gravel patch, its walls formed by evenly cut bamboo poles, lashed together with natural twine. The sun filters through the vertical slats, casting soft golden lines across a bench inside. It's the kind of place where worries pause at the entrance, where a quiet conversation, a journal, or just the sound of birdsong can bloom without distraction. And just a few steps away, we see another form of bamboo privacy, a garden reading nook where tall fencing wraps around three sides, softening the world outside. A hammock chair hangs from a wooden beam, swaying ever so slightly in the breeze. On a side table, a glass of lemonade waits patiently. This is not a luxury retreat. It's a small gift of space, handmade, thoughtful, grounding. And then there's the bamboo curtain pergola. Slatted shades hang loosely, dancing gently with the wind. Vines trail overhead, dappled sunlight spilling through. A wooden table holds a tea set that invites conversation or solitude. Nothing here is extravagant, but it all feels priceless. These spaces show how bamboo, one of nature's most versatile gifts, can transform a simple garden into a soulful place. You don't need a big yard. You don't need expensive materials. You need bamboo fencing, easily found second-hand or in rolls, some wooden supports, and time to listen to how the light wants to fall. Let the design be open enough to breathe, yet enclosed enough to embrace you. Add pillows, plants, and items that bring you calm. What begins as a DIY project may end as a daily ritual, a place you return to, again and again, for quiet and peace. There's something timeless about wood that has lived a former life. Crates that once held apples, bottles, or books, now reborn as planters against a humble garden fence. Each weathered slat tells a story. And when kissed by leaves and sunlight, those stories seem to bloom again. In one narrow corner of a modest backyard, a few hooks hold treasures, vintage stenciled crates filled with moss and succulents, dangling gently like green chandeliers. These aren't your typical planters, they're full of personality. The chipped paint, the rustic rope, the cascading vines, they breathe warmth into blank walls, and turn ordinary corners into miniature sanctuaries. This is the magic of vertical gardening when space is scarce but dreams are generous. You can recreate this effect with just a few materials: thrifted crates, or leftover shipping boxes, a sturdy fence, and some creativity. Drill in heavy-duty hooks, line your crates with breathable cloth to hold soil, and choose trailing plants like string of pearls or ivy. Even herbs like thyme or oregano look lovely spilling out. And don't forget the charm of small details: a galvanized bucket below to catch drips or serve as a rustic watering station, an old faucet repurposed as a fairy tale touch. Morning light makes everything softer, and even the shadows feel hand-drawn. Move to another corner, and you'll see a vertical garden arranged like a staircase of green. Here, the crates aren't just planters, they're architectural elements. Each one juts out slightly, offering a tier for herbs to thrive: mint brushing the breeze, rosemary standing tall, basil soaking in the sun. Some of the boxes are painted white, their edges flaked like old barn wood. Others are left raw, letting nature's palette shine through. The scent here is fresh and clean, especially after a morning watering. Fallen leaves on the stone pavers remind you that time passes gently in gardens like these. And on another wall, perhaps the most joyful display of all, blooms riot in crates like a country fair. Geraniums, petunias, and ivy burst with color. Each box bears a tiny chalkboard label, as if the flowers had names, stories, or wishes to share. They climb and spill and stretch toward the sky, while a tin watering can waits patiently below, a faithful companion in your daily ritual. This isn't just decorating, it's storytelling. It's reimagining waste as wonder, function as beauty, simplicity as art. So if you find yourself with a quiet fence, a few old boxes, and a heart ready for transformation, you already have everything you need. Let your garden whisper back to you. Once they raced down roads and rolled through childhoods. Now, they found peace in the garden. Old bike rims, gently rusted, stand upright in a circle around a bed of daisies. Their spokes catch the sunlight like harp strings, humming a tune only the bees can hear. It's an unconventional border, sure, but isn't nature always better with a hint of rebellion? The beauty of this idea lies in its contrast: hard metal framing soft petals. There's something deeply poetic about using discarded objects to guard something as fragile as flowers. And yet, it doesn't stop at the raw, metallic form. In another yard, these same wheels are reborn in pastel tones: mint, cream, lavender, each one cradling a flower pot in its center. Hung against a brick wall and lined with twine lights, the result is not only practical but whimsical, like a wheel-spun lullaby at sunset. Fairy lights whisper down from the line above, offering a quiet glow come twilight. This isn't just upcycling, it's transformation. Then, there's the industrial twist: car wheel rims planted into gravel, each one holding a burst of wildflowers like a crown. Set around a reclaimed wood bench, these metal halos feel grounded and modern, yet full of character. They offer structure without stiffness, order without formality. Whether you choose to go rustic or romantic, the message is the same: beauty doesn't have to be bought. It can be built from memory, from leftovers, from the things most people throw away. So if you have an old will lying around, think twice before discarding it. That forgotten circle may just become the most magical part of your garden. Let your tiny yard be a sanctuary of slow living and soft invention. In every crate and wheel ring lies a story, and with a little imagination, it's a story only you can tell. Shall we continue to the next categories when you're ready? Where ocean memories meet dry land, a garden can become a shoreline. Along a narrow bed, driftwood rests gently on soil, each piece worn smooth by time, each shell nestled beside it like a secret whispered by waves. There is no symmetry, yet everything belongs. Between aloe plants and tufts of ornamental grass, the soft line of shell and wood becomes a soft, grounding path for the eye. Follow that edge and you'll come across a sea of colored glass, bottles turned upside down and half buried, their colors glinting like sunlit sea glass. Blue, green, and amber, they march in a curved rhythm, interrupted only by white coral and scallop shells. This isn't just decoration, it's movement. It's coastal rhythm. Somewhere nearby, a gravel path leads to a pair of chairs under a parasol. The edging here is even more rustic. Rope-tied driftwood and oyster shells guide the way like miniature piers, as if you're walking to the sea. Lanterns sit ready to glow at dusk. The tall grasses sway in rhythm with the breeze, and the whole setting feels like an escape, yet it was made with things most people overlook. Sparkle's DIY tip: visit beach cleanups or local driftwood sellers. Glass bottles from kitchen use can be reused, no need to buy new. Keep your spacing irregular for a natural flow, and let textures guide your layout more than symmetry. This is where frugality becomes poetry. It's not about creating a perfect garden. It's about crafting corners where nature meets nostalgia, where every element carries a memory, and somehow, it feels like a place where fairies might pause to rest. Sometimes, the most magical corners of a garden are not the loudest or the most colorful. They're the ones where silence becomes design. Where gravel speaks in ripples, and stones become stories of stillness. This is the art of Japanese rock and rake edging, a gentle invitation to create space not just in your garden, but in your heart. In the first vision, we step into a path that doesn't lead to a destination, but to presence. Flat slate stones rest like islands in a sea of raked white sand, each ripple around them echoing the movement of wind or thought. Black pebbles flank each side like guardians of stillness, while crimson maple trees overhead let the sun dance between their lace-like leaves. It's not just a walkway, it's a meditation in motion. You could recreate this path using salvaged flat stones and inexpensive gravel. The key isn't cost, it's care. Raking those waves slowly becomes an act of mindfulness, more valuable than anything store-bought. Further in, we find a miniature world contained in a wooden frame. A rectangle of peace. This tiny Zen garden needs no lawn, no blooms, no border fence. Just white gravel, a trio of smooth river stones, and a small Buddha figure to remind us, simplicity is power. The rake, resting nearby, suggests that change is always within reach. Patterns can be rewritten, cleared, and made again. This is a perfect idea for balconies, apartment corners, or any forgotten edge of your yard. All you need is a wooden box, some sand, and your breath. And finally, the heart of this category, a square of soft moss cradling a bonsai tree, centered in a bed of perfect sand, ringed by bamboo and polished black stones. The raked lines swirl around the bonsai like quiet currents, guiding the eye, grounding the soul. It feels ancient, sacred. But in truth, it can begin with a single afternoon of patience. Collect a shallow bowl, pot a bonsai, rake the sand slowly, and just listen. These designs don't clamor for attention. They whisper. They slow the rush of the world, if only for a moment. And in that pause, beauty grows. So if your garden is small, or your budget limited, remember, tranquility doesn't ask for space. It simply asks for intention.